A few days ago, Taylor Swift dropped her 11th studio album called The Tortured Poets Department, and we reacted to it. Though I was not able to put the standard reaction on YouTube because it got blocked, I was able to put it on Patreon, and then on YouTube we reacted to the Anthology album. In total with this album, this era, this project, we got 31 new songs from Miss Swift, Miss Allison. And I would say this is probably the era that's made me... I always knew she was a good writer, but this era really solidified her quill for me. Hello my favorite people, if you're new here, there's a thing that we do after we do like album reactions where we rank the songs, but I feel like this, it's such a peculiar album and such a different time that I feel like it's not fair to compare each song to itself. So therefore, what are we doing today? We're ranking Taylor Swift's individual albums in her entire discography. We're going back all the way to Taylor Swift's debut album to now The Tortured Poets Department, from like 2006 to 2024. Miss Girl is now 34 years old. She started out in music as a teenager, and we get to see the story of her growing up and all her experiences in her music. And now, this is just my opinion on those projects. As always, I have to give like a disclaimer for these type of videos because my laundry's done. It's gonna be beeping. 1 second, because it's gonna annoy me. Anyways, as I was saying, I have to give a disclaimer for these type of videos because people seem to get offended when you give your opinion on the internet, especially when it comes to their faves. This video is solely based on my opinion and my taste for Taylor's music. You can disagree with me, go ahead and put it down in the comment section, anything that you don't agree with that I say. However, just try to keep it respectful, nice, cute. Don't get standy, twittery, and crazy. Anyways, subscribe if you're here, like the video, check out the Patreon again if you want to see the standard album reaction. It's over 2 hours long, so it's a good one. And let's get right into this ranking. Voila! So first things first, we gotta go with and discuss what each row is about. So, obviously, the top row is Album of the Year, which Miss Swift seems to have a claim on. Album of the Year just means that I think that it's Album of the Year songs and albums and projects that I just really love, and I think she did her big one with these albums. So albums that go in this top row are like my favorites. Underneath Album of the Year we have We're Streaming, Your Honor, which means like there are a few songs that I really enjoy from the project, but in its entirety, it's not my favorite project. So We're Streaming is like individual songs, save the album from flopping, in my opinion. Love the Writing, which again is kind of like it's in the middle ground because at the end of the day, if someone else were to have produced the song or made the song, or if the writing were any different, I probably wouldn't be a huge fan of the project. But because Taylor Swift can add her little pizzazz onto any project, I can still enjoy it. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's a middle ground. I don't dislike it, but it's not my favorite at the same time. Albums that go in this row. Underneath Love the Writing, we have which means partially it's an album that I haven't like fully made my opinion on, but it's also one that I can see myself enjoying from time to time, but more often than not, it's a skip for me. It's just not my vibe, which we're gonna get into it because I'm already thinking of a certain album that's on the shelf right now that may go into that category. But since going to the Eras tour, hint hint, my opinion on that album has completely changed and I'm like obsessed at this point. Anyways, under which I'm still thinking about, is Flop. Albums that go in the bottom tier, flop, are albums that I don't really understand. I don't get how we went from all of these other projects and now ended up here. Things that just don't make sense. I would assume that for a lot of you, outliers like Lover or Folklore or even Taylor Swift debut would be in your flop row, but get ready to hear what is in my flop row. Alright, now that we understand, let's get into the first album, which is Taylor Swift, her debut album. Okay, now it's no shock, it's no question that I don't necessarily enjoy country music, and I feel like Taylor Swift with this album was perpetuating a character that she felt like she had to fill to make it in the industry. Even in the Tortured Poets Department, she discusses how her family kind of like pushed her and how blood is sometimes not as thick as it may seem. And she's kind of, in a way, I can't believe I'm making this comparison, but she was the JoJo Siwa of her family. Sure, they were successful. Sure, she lived on a ranch, but at the end of the day, it was no comparison to the level of stardom that they were pushing her to be. And I love Andrea, so this is no shade to her, but there was even a point where she said something like, pop stars don't eat Taco Bell. So my whole point is, I feel like with the Taylor Swift era, the Taylor Swift debut era is like memorable and great because it was her first project, but I think behind the scenes, she was a girl that was maybe taken advantage of and forced into this box of blue-eyed, blonde-haired country artist. Hell, she had to fake an accent through half the album. So therefore, I'm gonna be honest. Be honest, Favour. You've made this whole community for yourself to where you can really give your opinion on music and artists. So therefore, just say it blatantly, and whoever doesn't agree can choke. Okay, so therefore, Taylor Swift debut album, I'm sure a lot of you guessed this, is a flop album for me. I respect it, again, because it was her very first album, and therefore it kind of like made Taylor Swift and helped her become who she is today, which is our pop synth queen. But that being said, I just wish she was, not to say that she wasn't being authentic, but I feel like she definitely felt like she had to play a role in the industry during this time. Okay, that was a mouthful. Yes, Taylor Swift, flop. After Taylor Swift, we have Fearless. Now, I feel like the girls that really enjoy Taylor Swift debut album also enjoy Fearless, but I feel like Fearless is her starting to come into her own as an artist. Like, from the very beginning, she was making hits, and I feel like with Fearless, she kind of just, like, she started to get it a bit more. So, Fearless, I'm gonna say, because honestly, again, this is another album where until I went to the Eras tour, I didn't really enjoy it very much. But after hearing some of the songs live, I was like, oh wait, I might be a little hee-haw after all. I am, in fact, from Texas, so she's got me giggity and some cowboy boots for this album. That being said, I still hate Taylor Swift debut album. But yeah, I enjoy Fearless a bit more than I enjoyed Taylor Swift debut. Now, after these two country abominations, we have Speak Now. And Speak Now was the turning point, I feel like, for Taylor Swift. She had like this major shift from where she felt like she had to be still this character in a country box in Tennessee to where she could start exploring. She, like, at this point, she's made a name for herself. She's a household name, I would say. And so she has more power to develop and experiment with her craft. And I think Speak Now is a really good transitional moment for Taylor Swift. And so therefore I have to put it into Love the Writing. Because again, I think this is the transitional moment that really made Taylor Swift start to turn into the Taylor Swift I grew up loving. Okay. Now, this next album, Red, you guys may be shocked by my opinion. I know. But the thing is, Red is such... Oh, I gotta say it. There's a few bops. There's a few hits. But in general, I would say Red is a forgettable album for me. It is. I'm sorry. But anything that we want from Red, we can just get from Evermore or Folklore. Anything we want from Red, we can just get it from her pop albums like 1989 Lover. I feel like it's trying to be something that it just doesn't measure up to be. And really, I've never heard anyone say Red is my favorite album. Like, I don't think whenever you look at Taylor Swift's discography, people are running to stream Red entirety from start to finish. No, there are albums in her discography that, again, we're getting to, that are start to finish albums. But I just don't think, besides All Too Well, what is Red giving? Give me your opinions down below, but I just think Red is a forgettable album. I do. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm not though. It's the truth. After Red, we have 1989. And the only criticism I really have for 1989 is 1989 Taylor's version, because why the hell are we at the beach? When did we get to the ocean? I thought we were at the dance floor, on the dance floor in New York City, and all of a sudden we're like, Cowabunga. I don't get it. I don't really get how the theme changed. I never saw 1989 as like a beachy album, but you know, Taylor Swift it's her art. She's the craftsman. We're just here to enjoy it. That being said, 1989 is the album after, I would say, Speak Now, that really cemented Taylor Swift as an icon for me. 1989 is when I remember growing up and really being like, whoa, I'm a freaking fan of Taylor Swift. 1989 is that album that's just, it changed, I feel like, pop music in general. I would compare 1989 to like the Lady Gagas of the world. That's how iconic it was. Katy Perry, 1989, Lady Gaga, back in the day, that was pop. That was like the it music, the it girl music. And I love this album so much. Now, when we go to place it somewhere on the ranking, where does it go? We're Streaming Your Honor or Album of the Year? Oh, this is a hard one. So in moments like this, all I can do is compare it to other projects which I already know are going to be, yeah, yeah, because it's fun. Welcome to New York. We are never getting back together. I knew you were. Oh, come on, pay some respect. Respect. Yeah, no. Okay, because I just named a few songs from the project, but in its entirety, am I like hype about it? No, I'm just hype about individual songs. So yeah. But that being said, this album had some of the biggest like moments for Taylor Swift, I would say, and for making me a fan of her. So I have a lot of respect for this album, though when you compare it to other albums like the one that's next, Reputation, there's no motherfucking comparison! Come on! Reputation? Which is our next up of the Taylor's version releases. I cannot freaking wait. There's not enough words. With the backstory, which again, we're still talking about freaking Kim Kardashian to this day. She got another shout out on the Torture Poets department. But with the backstory, knowing everything that went down and seeing how she came back and was like, yeah, you call me a snake, I'll take that shit by the horns and profit off of it. And then it gave us endless bops. We really got to see Taylor Swift in her like defense. We got to see her defend herself. We got to see her, I would say, I wouldn't even call it angry, but maybe even vengeful, but in the best way. That's not a negative word. So Reputation for me is like, that's the moment I was like, my girl, I'm riding for you, Taylor, and I respect it. Stomp on these bitches and these hoes and these Good Morning America people, because the world was just doing too much, and this was her answer, and I respect it so much. Not to mention the music are bops. After Reputation, we have Lover, which is kind of crazy. How do we go from this is why we can't have nice things? I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense, the sound of it, but the feelings were completely different from Reputation to Lover. It's a interesting transition how we jump from era to era. But I know a lot of you hate Lover. I'm obsessed with that dang album. Come on. Me? You guys saw my costumes for the Eras tour. That yellow suit, I rocked that shit. I love Me. I know people hate it, but I love Me. It's a good song. You have to admit. It's fun. It's bouncy. I don't get the hate that Lover gets. And then it gave us that saxophone sexy song. We might just get away with it. Even if it's a false god. Like, I feel like Lover is what helped Taylor Swift become more explicit with her writing. Like, now she's just talking about some, yeah, I'll ride him like a horsey. But back in the day, she had to, like, use these innuendos and metaphors and stuff to describe it. So, my respects to Lover, not to mention there's bops on the album. I love Lover. And surprisingly, after Lover, we have my favorite album from her entire... No, yeah. Maybe? It's between Folklore and Midnights, but it just depends on my mood, I guess. Am I sad depressed, or am I shake my ass depressed? When I'm sad depressed, Folklore, I'm streaming. Which is crazy because whenever I first heard the album, I was not a huge fan of it. But then I went to the Eras tour, and I got to see her perform some of these songs live. Oh my god. Don't Call Me Kid, when she's on that ground, like, oh, I can still see it. The wind blowing, she's looking in the camera. You taught me secrets that I can't explain to anyone else. Oh. It honestly changed my life. Eras tour. Yeah, Folklore is the one... I don't know how you could... This is me trying. There were some moments throughout the Pandemonia with Koviana that song would have made... It would have been my last straw. But that song, regardless, is beautiful. Also, it just made me realize, like, how much depressing SI type of music she writes. I don't think Miss Girl is okay. I don't know how she performs, keeps making music while clearly being, like, not in the best mental state. But maybe that's what makes the music so good. I don't know. I just hope she's okay. But yes, Folklore, great album. Now, surprisingly, I feel like the next album, Evermore, is like Taylor Swift trying to recreate another Folklore moment, and it just did not happen. Besides Willow, what else are you, and Cardigan, what else are you streaming from the album? Not a damn thing. Evermore is a flop. To me, Evermore is a flop. Give me your opinions down below, but I feel like this is an album that we could have gone without. She could have freaking put Cardigan, bitch, on red. She could have put Willow on red. We did not need a whole album of Evermore. For real. And then after Evermore, we have arguably her second best album out of her discography, or some would argue her best album in the discography. We have Midnights. Midnights is such a bop that I went ahead and bought two of the same damn vinyl. I know that her marketing team said we should buy 4, bitch, but you're not getting me that much. You got me twice. That's enough. So yeah, I've never bought 2 of the same dang album from any artist before, but Taylor Swift had me with Midnights. Midnights is that friend. I mean, the whole album is this, really. This is the point of the album. But the song, the music, is that fake friend that you look in the mirror to, or, like, that's beside you when you're going through your worst moments. And, like, when you're drunk or you're just crying and life is falling apart, Midnights is your bestie that you can cope with. I love this album. The music is so good. And then all of a sudden, how do we end up with Lavender Haze and Karma as my boyfriend? It's me. I'm the problem. It's me. We're having eating disorder, trigger warning, weight issues. We hate life. We have SI ideation. But at the end of the day, we're like dancing around in a 70s house. And that's the beauty of it. After Midnights, we have, again, the latest album, which is the Tortured Poets Department. And this is an album that I completely respect for her writing, her vulnerability on the album. I've never seen an artist open up like so much on a project and really let her fans see what she's been going through. I feel like, that being said, this album is more for her to make a point than it was for us to stream, or for it to chart, or for it to be like one of those albums we run to like have our favorite songs on. The Tortured Poets Department was not an album made for the fans. It was a point that she needed to make to really I think she just needed to get some stuff off of her chest. From family issues to all of a sudden, why are we going back to Matt Healy? I thought that chapter was closed. I was trying to forget that rat existed, but now she's gone and made a whole album about him. And then there's a little bit of Chiefs play and football talk sprinkled in there. We're whacking JoJo, then all of a sudden we're whacking Maddie Healy, and then all of a sudden we're in love. But also, Andrea, catch the shade. The writing was crazy, though. She had me flipping through the dictionary the whole time. That being said, besides even Fortnite, even the first single is not like a huge song that I'm running to listen to. I Knew You Were Trouble, I'm blanking, but my point is there's a whole bunch of different songs from her discography that it's like, yeah, obviously I'm going to be streaming that. But for me, I can't even pick out one single song. I mean, maybe that high school one. But yeah, there's really not, I can't even pick my top 5 from the album. And I think that's because it was more of an experience and something that you just had to sit through and like listen to her more than it was about the music. Jack Antonoff was still trying to do his synth stuff. It didn't work, in my opinion. The second half, the anthology, was better than the standard version. But the project, regardless, was more of a therapy session for Taylor Swift than it was for us to, like, fiend over. So that being said, Tortured Poets Department is going in, because it's not an album that I'm listening to for the music. It's just something I'm listening to really try to see and understand Taylor's mind and where she's at in her life. So guys, this is my ranking. You guys let me know. Do you agree with anything? Are there things that you disagree with? Where would you rank some of the albums? Let me know. If you made it this far into the video, comment Favour. Why is there a flop, bro? And I will heart your comment. But you can't even lie, for real. Like, I feel like I did a good job. It's very even. It's very sprawled out. I wasn't hating, I feel like, on any era. I appreciate all these eras. But I look at it more as just the writing, more than it just being Taylor Swift, and more than it just being like a fun album. Like, there's so many different factors I feel like that went into my ranking. But anyways, you give me your opinions on them and let me know. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!